24 kilometers, 25 kilograms on your back, a mountain that has broken some of Britain's finest soldiers, and a time limit that does not care how fit you are. This is the fan dance, the single most famous test in the SAS selection process, and one of the hardest military endurance challenges on Earth. The Brecon Beacons of South Wales are not the tallest mountains in Britain. They are not the most technically demanding, but they are relentless. Cold when the rest of Britain is warm, wet when everywhere else is dry, fog that appears without warning and removes every reference point you thought you had. At the center of this range stands Pen Fan, 873 meters above sea level. In good weather, it is a popular hiking destination for families and weekend walkers. In the conditions that SAS Selection creates, it is something else entirely. The fan dance takes its name from this mountain. Candidates must climb it, descend the other side, cross a valley, climb it again from the opposite direction, and return to the start point. All of this, carrying a Bergen rucksack weighing at minimum 25 kilograms, plus water, plus weapon. All of this, within a time limit that is not publicly disclosed. All of this, alone. Before a candidate ever sets foot on Pen Fan in a selection context, months of preparation have already taken place. Most candidates spend between 6 months and a year preparing specifically for the fan dance and the broader selection process. The preparation follows a predictable pattern, at least on the surface. Weighted rucksack marches, progressive distance, progressive weight, hill training wherever geography allows. Former candidates who have spoken openly about their preparation describe a common experience. No matter how prepared you think you are, the mountain finds something you missed. The Bergen itself is a subject of obsessive attention before selection. Every gram matters. The packing sequence matters. The position of weight relative to the spine matters. A poorly packed Bergen at kilometer 5 becomes a serious injury risk at kilometer 20. Footwear is chosen with equal care. The wrong boot in Welsh mountain terrain is not an inconvenience. It is a withdrawal. Candidates who have served in warm climate theaters, who have extensive combat experience in desert or jungle environments, often find the Brecon Beacons specifically disorienting. The cold is different. The wet is different. The fog operates differently on the human mind than heat does. A soldier who has endured genuine hardship in combat discovers that the mountain does not care about his combat record. It presents its own terms, and you either meet them or you do not. The route has two versions. In the summer selection, candidates complete the fan dance as part of test week, the culminating phase of the mountain stage. In the winter selection, the same route is completed in shorter daylight hours, in colder temperatures, often in ice and snow. Both are considered equally valid. Both are considered equally brutal. The route itself follows a specific path that has remained largely unchanged for decades. It begins at Pont Ardaf, a car park at the base of the mountain that, on civilian weekends, fills with hikers in colorful jackets. On selection days, it looks different. From Pont Ardaf, candidates move upward toward the summit of Pen Fan via the ridge known as the Story Arms Path. The ascent is steep. The surface underfoot changes, grass giving way to rock, rock giving way to exposed plateau. At the summit, there is a moment, brief and not to be dwelt on, where the full scale of the task becomes visible. The descent on the far side leads into the Nuad Valley. The valley crossing is deceptive. The ground looks flat from above. It is not flat. It is uneven, saturated, and slow. Then comes the return ascent. Climbing Pen Fan a second time after the descent and the valley crossing is a different experience from the first. The legs know what is coming. And knowing what is coming, in this context, is not always an advantage. The total distance varies slightly depending on the exact route walked, but candidates typically cover somewhere between 24 and 26 kilometers of mountain terrain. On paper, this does not sound impossible. Elite soldiers are fit. They train for months before attempting selection. Many arrive in the best physical condition of their lives. And yet, the fan dance has ended the selection attempt of soldiers who have served in combat, who have passed every fitness test their regiment demanded, who came to Wales believing they were ready. The mountain does not care what you believed. To understand why the fan dance is so hard, you need to understand what 25 kilograms actually feels like after the first hour. In the first 20 minutes, the weight is manageable. By the first hour, every uphill step requires a conscious decision. By the second hour, the body has begun negotiating with itself. The knees absorb forces far beyond their design specification. The shoulders compress under the uneven load of the Bergen. The lower back begins a conversation that does not stop. And this is before the weather intervenes. The Brecon Beacons generate their own microclimate. Temperature can drop 10 degrees in 30 minutes. Rain arrives horizontally. Wind on the exposed ridge of Pen y Fan can reach speeds that make forward progress genuinely difficult. Candidates who began the march in mild conditions have found themselves navigating a near whiteout by the time they reach the summit. There is no shelter. There is no pause. The clock does not stop for weather. Consider what this means in practical terms. A candidate who loses 20 minutes to severe weather conditions on the ascent does not receive 20 additional minutes at the end. The time limit is fixed. The mountain is not. This asymmetry, where the environment can take time from you but cannot give it back, is one of the defining features of the fan dance's psychological architecture. Every minute lost to conditions is a minute that must be recovered through effort. And recovering time on a mountain, carrying weight in deteriorating weather, requires a quality of decision-making that most people have never had to access. Here's the part that surprises people who have never attempted the fan dance. Most candidates who fail do not fail because their legs gave out. They fail because their mind decided the body had given out before it actually had. The experience of sustained physical discomfort at altitude, carrying weight in adverse weather alone, with no feedback from anyone around you, creates a psychological environment unlike almost anything else in military training. The brain begins presenting arguments. It points out that stopping is an option. It reminds you that no one is watching. It calculates with apparently precise logic that the time remaining makes completion impossible anyway. Every one of these arguments feels completely rational in the moment. Every one of them is a lie. Former SAS soldiers who have written about their selection experience describe the fan dance not as a physical test with a psychological component, but as a psychological test that uses the physical as its mechanism. The mountain is not trying to exhaust you. It is trying to find out who you are when exhaustion arrives. There is a specific moment that many who have attempted the fan dance describe. It comes at different points for different people. For some, it arrives on the first descent. For others, on the valley crossing. For many, it comes on the second climb, when the summit that was already hard the first time must be reached again. It is the moment when the internal argument becomes loudest, when the body's case for stopping feels most convincing, when the gap between where you are and where you need to be seems, for the first time, genuinely uncrossable. What happens in that moment determines everything. The candidates who pass are not those who never reach that moment. They are those who reach it and keep moving anyway. The directing staff, the DS, are present throughout the fan dance. But their presence is unlike anything candidates have experienced in conventional military training. They do not shout encouragement. They do not point out errors. They do not tell you whether you are ahead of the required pace or behind it. They watch. They record. They say almost nothing. This silence is deliberate and it is devastating. Human beings are social creatures. We calibrate our performance against the reactions of those around us. We look for signals. We read faces. We adjust based on feedback. The Ds give none. A candidate who is 10 minutes ahead of the required pace receives exactly the same expression from a Ds instructor as a candidate who is 10 minutes behind it. The result is a profound uncertainty that compounds every physical difficulty. You do not know if you are winning. You do not know if you are losing. You know only that you must keep moving. That is, in many ways, the entire point. The silence of the Ds is itself a test. It is asking, can you perform without external validation? Can you maintain effort, discipline, and sound judgment when no one is telling you that you are doing well? Because on SAS operations, in a 4-man patrol inserted deep behind enemy lines, days from any support, there will be no one to tell you that you are doing well either. The mountain is practice for that. The fan dance is not the only test in SAS selection. It is one element of a longer process that includes navigation exercises, patrol tasks, the jungle phase, and ultimately, SERE training. But the fan dance holds a specific place in the mythology of the regiment, because it is the moment when many candidates first understand what selection is actually testing. It is not testing whether you can walk up a mountain with a heavy rucksack. Every reasonably fit soldier can do that.
Right, markers ready.
It is testing whether you will continue to make good decisions, rational, controlled, effective decisions, when every physical signal your body is sending tells you to stop. That ability to override the body's emergency systems with the mind's considered judgment is the foundation of everything the SAS does on operations. A four-man patrol inserted deep behind enemy lines, cut off from support, facing an unexpected situation, needs soldiers who have already answered that question about themselves. The fan dance is where many of them answer it for the first time. Consider how this compares to other demanding endurance events. A marathon covers 42 kilometers, significantly further than the fan dance. But a marathon runner carries nothing beyond minimal clothing and water. The course is flat or gently undulating. There are spectators, there are water stations, there are other runners to calibrate against. There is constant external feedback telling you where you are and how far remains. The fan dance removes every one of those support structures. No spectators, no water stations, no other runners to benchmark against. Just the mountain, the weight, the weather, and the clock. This is why elite marathon runners who have attempted the civilian fan dance have reported finding it harder than expected. Not because they lack fitness, because fitness in this context is only part of what is being demanded. In 2012, something unusual happened. The fan dance was open to the public, an annual civilian event run over the same route, carrying a minimum weight requirement, competing for a time. It has since become one of the most sought-after endurance events in Britain. Thousands of civilians, athletes, fitness enthusiasts, former military, ordinary people who simply want to know, attempt it every year. The completion rate among civilians is significantly lower than among military candidates. Not because civilians are less fit. Some of the civilian competitors are elite endurance athletes. But because the fan dance, even in its civilian form, demands something that cannot be trained in a gym. The civilian event has produced an interesting effect. It has made the fan dance more visible, more discussed, more understood by the public. And it has, if anything, increased respect for what military candidates face. Because even without the pressure of selection, even without the time limit being a career-ending threshold, the mountain still defeats most people who attempt it. The civilians who complete it consistently report the same thing. It was harder than anything they had done before, and they were changed by it in some way they find difficult to articulate. The mountain does something to people. It presents a version of themselves they have not previously met. For some, that meeting is the beginning of understanding why the SAS is what it is. The fan dance has not changed in any fundamental way since the SAS began using the Brecon beacons for selection in the 1950s. The route is the same. The weight requirement has evolved, but the principle has not. The mountain is the same mountain. This consistency is not accident or tradition for its own sake. It is because the fan dance tests something that does not change. Military technology evolves. Weapons change. Tactics adapt. The nature of conflict transforms. Drones now survey terrain that once required physical reconnaissance. Satellites provide intelligence that once required insertion teams. Artificial intelligence processes information at speeds no human analyst can match. And yet, none of these technologies remove the need for soldiers who can function under extreme pressure with imperfect information and no guarantee of support. If anything, the proliferation of technology has made that human quality more important, not less. Because the moment a system fails, and systems fail, someone must be capable of acting without it. The fan dance exists because that requirement has never gone away. And because mountains, unlike training simulations, cannot be gamed. You cannot study for a mountain. You cannot find a shortcut that actually works. You can only go. Every year, soldiers arrive at the base of Pen y Fan. They have trained for months. They believe they are ready. Some of them are right. Most discover that ready is not a destination you reach before the fan dance. It is something you find out about yourself during it. The ones who pass do not necessarily finish faster than those who fail. They finish because they kept making the decision to continue, one step at a time, long after the decision felt impossible. That is what the fan dance is. That is what the SAS has always been looking for. Not the fastest, not the strongest, the ones who keep deciding to move forward when every reasonable argument says they should stop. If you want to understand what happens to the candidates who pass the fan dance, what comes next in the selection process, and why the jungle phase breaks people that the mountains could not, that is the subject of the next video in this series. Subscribe, and we'll see you there.